The silent invasion. The stars dimmed across Earth's night sky before anyone realized what was happening. Astronomers noticed it first, a strange shadow passing over distant constellations, as if something massive was moving between Earth and the stars. By the time global observatories confirmed the anomaly, the hegemony had already positioned their warships in Earth's orbit. Commander Ilara Chen was on duty at the International Space Defense Command when the first signals came through. Massive objects, unlike anything they'd ever tracked, had appeared just beyond the moon's orbit. No warning, no approach vectors. They simply materialized, as if stepping through an invisible door in space. "How many?" she asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. 27 ships, Commander," replied Lieutenant Santos, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Largest one is approximately 12 kilometers in length." The room fell silent. Humanity's most advanced spacecraft barely reached 100 meters. Whatever had arrived, it outclassed Earth's technology by centuries, possibly millennia. "All stations, this is not a drill," Ilara announced, activating the global alert system. First Contact Protocol Alpha is now in effect. Within minutes, governments worldwide received the alert. Military forces mobilized, and civilian defense protocols activated across every continent. For decades, humanity had prepared for this moment, the discovery that we were not alone in the universe. But no one had expected first contact to come in the form of a fleet that dwarfed Earth's combined naval power. The hegemony made no attempt to communicate for the first 6 hours. They simply observed, scanning Earth's surface with technologies that penetrated deep into the planet's crust. Global communications experienced intermittent disruptions, and electrical systems near the fleet's position faltered. When the message finally came, it arrived simultaneously on every electronic device on the planet. From military command centers to children's tablets, a face appeared. Humanoid but clearly alien, with silvery skin that reflected light like polished metal and eyes that shifted colors like an oil slick on water. "People of Earth," the being spoke in perfect English, its voice oddly melodious. "I am Archon-Zarius of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been claimed as a resource acquisition zone. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient. Prepare for extraction procedures." The transmission ended as abruptly as it began. No elaboration, no diplomacy, merely a statement of intent. Global panic ensued. In New York, Tokyo, and Lagos, crowds filled the streets. Some prayed, others rioted. Many simply stood in shock, staring at the strange vessels now visible in daylight skies. At the United Nations emergency session, Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading xenobiologist, addressed the assembled leaders. "They don't see us as equals," she explained, her voice grim. "Based on that transmission, the hegemony operates on a resource extraction hierarchy. They don't view Earth as a sovereign world, but as a mining opportunity." "And what exactly do they want to extract?" asked the German chancellor. Maya hesitated. "My team has analyzed their scanning patterns. They're focusing on specific geological formations, particularly those rich in rare earth elements, and biological diversity. They're here to harvest us," the Chinese president concluded quietly. The first extraction ships descended 48 hours later. Massive hexagonal vessels that hovered over the Amazon rainforest, the Congo Basin, and the Great Barrier Reef. From their undersides emerged what could only be described as enormous drills, spinning columns of energy that began boring into Earth's surface. Earth's military response was swift but futile. Fighter jets launched worldwide, armed with the most advanced weapons humanity had developed. They might as well have been throwing stones. The hegemony's defensive shields absorbed missile impacts without visible effect. Laser systems simply reflected back, sometimes destroying the very aircraft that fired them. Commander Chen watched the satellite feeds with growing desperation as Earth's combined air forces were decimated within hours. The extraction continued unabated. "We need something they don't expect," she muttered. "Something they haven't seen before." That something came from an unexpected source. In a research facility beneath the Atacama Desert, Dr. Kaito Nakamura had spent 15 years developing quantum entanglement communication, technology that operated outside conventional electromagnetic spectrum. Their defenses are calibrated against everything we've developed publicly, Kaito explained during the emergency video conference. But they can't shield against what they don't know exists. The plan formed quickly. Earth couldn't match the hegemony's firepower, but they could communicate without being detected or intercepted. Underground resistance cells formed in every country, coordinated through Kaito's quantum network. Information flowed freely, undetectable by the alien scanners. Scientists worldwide, now working together without political boundaries, began reverse engineering captured fragments of hegemony technology. Engineers repurposed civilian infrastructure for defense. Farmers adjusted crop patterns to create massive ground-based interference patterns that disrupted alien scanning technology. The first human victory came unexpectedly in northern Canada. A small extraction vessel, separated from its fleet, became trapped in a magnetic anomaly created by a hastily constructed array of repurposed power station transformers. Before the hegemony could respond, a team led by indigenous engineers who understood the local geomagnetic fields had boarded the craft. What they discovered inside changed everything. The hegemony wasn't a unified force. It was a collection of subjugated species, forced to serve as extraction technicians. Many harbored resentment toward their overlords. And most importantly, their technology, while advanced, operated on principles that human scientists could begin to comprehend. They manipulate gravitational fields, Dr. Nakamura explained after studying the captured ship. It's how they travel, how they shield themselves, even how their weapons function. Can we replicate it? Commander Chen asked. Not exactly, he replied with a faint smile. But we can disrupt it. Within days, the Resistance had distributed plans for gravitational disruptor devices that could be built from modified microwave components and specific crystal formations. They wouldn't destroy the hegemony ships, but they could create localized areas where their technology malfunctioned. The global counterattack began on the 7th day of the invasion. Simultaneously across every continent, humans activated thousands of disruptor devices. Hegemony extraction ships faltered, their drills powering down as gravitational fields collapsed. For the first time, the aliens experienced failure. The Archon's face appeared again on global screens, but this time, the perfect composure had cracked. Anger distorted the metallic features. Your resistance is unexpected, Xerius admitted, but ultimately meaningless. You have merely delayed the inevitable. Commander Chen, now speaking for Earth's unified defense forces, responded through the captured communication system. Perhaps, she replied, or perhaps you've underestimated us. This is our home, Archon Xerius. We will not surrender it without a fight. As night fell across the Americas, the hegemony ships regrouped in higher orbit. They were preparing something, a counterattack that would likely dwarf their initial assault. But for the first time since the massive ships appeared in Earth's skies, humanity felt something they had nearly lost. Hope. The battle for Earth's survival had only just begun. Defiance rising. Dawn broke over a changed world. The hegemony's response to humanity's unexpected resistance was swift and merciless. Massive energy beams lanced down from orbit, targeting major population centers. Shanghai, Cairo, and Mexico City suffered devastating strikes that vaporized entire districts. The message was clear: resist and be destroyed. But the hegemony had miscalculated. The attacks didn't break humanity's spirit. They hardened it into something implacable. They expect us to fracture, President Amara Okafor told the emergency coalition of world leaders. To turn on each other in fear. That's how they've conquered before. We cannot, will not, follow that script. In underground facilities across the globe, the remaining fragments of human society reorganized. National boundaries became meaningless as resources pooled and knowledge shared freely across borders. The quantum communication network expanded, connecting resistance cells from Antarctic research stations to Himalayan monasteries. Dr. Maya Patel made the breakthrough 3 weeks into the war. While examining geographical data from hegemony scanning patterns, she noticed something peculiar. They were avoiding certain areas entirely. "Look at these regions," she explained, highlighting sections on the global map. The Atacama, parts of the Sahara, this section of Australian outback, and here in Siberia. They're not just low priority. They're being actively avoided. Commander Chen studied the patterns. What do these regions have in common? Nothing obvious. Different climates, different mineral compositions. Maya paused, her eyes widening. Wait, let me cross-reference with archaeological databases. The results were startling. Each avoided region contained ancient megastructures, dismissed by conventional archaeology as natural formations or primitive constructions. But the hegemony's avoidance suggested something more. An expedition to the Sahara site, led by Dr. Ibrahim Hassan, revealed the truth. Beneath the shifting sands lay a vast complex of crystalline structures, clearly artificial and clearly not human in origin. "It's at least 50,000 years old," Ibrahim reported back through the quantum network. "And it's still active at some level. There's an energy signature unlike anything we've recorded." Similar discoveries followed at each location. Earth had been home to advanced civilizations long before humans evolved, and they had left behind technology that the hegemony recognized and feared. Professor Leila Wang, a theoretical physicist who had once been ridiculed for her papers on alternative energy systems, now led the team studying the ancient technology. "They're quantum resonance amplifiers," she explained to the gathered resistance leaders. "They were designed to harmonize with Earth's natural magnetic field, creating a planetary defense system." "Can we reactivate them?" Commander Chen asked. "They never fully deactivated," Lila replied. "They've been running in standby mode for millennia. The problem is synchronization. We need to align all sites simultaneously." The plan formed quickly. Teams would deploy to each ancient site, using modified versions of Dr. Nakamura's quantum entanglement technology to establish precision synchronization. If successful, they could potentially create a planetary shield that even the hegemony couldn't penetrate. Meanwhile, the resistance continued to harass hegemony operations. Using gravitational disruptors, guerrilla forces targeted extraction ships whenever they descended to Earth's surface. Human pilots, flying hastily modified aircraft with disruptor technology, executed daring raids on lower-ordered vessels. The hegemony responded by deploying ground forces, bipedal mechanized units controlled by alien operators. These hunters pursued resistance cells with relentless efficiency, but they encountered a species that had perfected the art of asymmetric warfare through centuries of conflict. In the mountains of Afghanistan, former enemies fought side by side against mechanical hunters. In Brazilian rainforests, indigenous knowledge of the terrain proved superior to alien tracking technology. Across the frozen tundra of Siberia, local trappers led hegemony units into natural hazards their sensors couldn't detect. 6 weeks into the war, humanity was bloody but unbroken. The ancient sites had been secured, and Professor Wang's team had decoded enough of the technology to attempt reactivation. The operation was scheduled for what had once been midnight Greenwich Mean Time, a final nod to human conventions before embracing the alien technology that might save them. As teams at each site prepared for synchronization, the hegemony made its move. Arction, Xerius's flagship, a colossal vessel nearly 20 kilometers long, moved into low Earth orbit directly above the Mediterranean site. Energy readings suggested it was preparing a weapon of unprecedented power. "They figured out what we're doing," Commander Chen realized. "They're going to try to destroy at least one site before we can activate the network." The decision was made instantly. Earth would get only one chance at this. The activation sequence began, with each site powering up in carefully timed stages. Across the globe, the ancient machines hummed to life, crystal structures glowing with inner light as energy began to flow through systems dormant for 50 millennia. Above, the Hegemony flagship's weapon reached full charge. A sphere of incandescent energy formed at its bow, growing larger by the second. Professor Wong's voice came through the quantum link, unusually calm despite the tension. Synchronization at 80%. We need 3 more minutes. We don't have 3 minutes, someone replied, as the energy sphere above continued to expand. Then, from bases around the world, humanity launched its remaining missiles, not at the flagship's weapon, which was impervious to such attacks, but at its rear propulsion systems. The gravitational disruptors had revealed a pattern. Hegemony ships needed to maintain stable position when charging their main weapons. The missiles, modified with disruptor technology, detonated around the flagship's engines. They didn't penetrate the shields, but they didn't need to. The gravitational distortions they created were enough to nudge the massive ship slightly off its firing position. The Hegemony weapon discharge, its beam of concentrated energy missing the Mediterranean site by less than 2 kilometers. The ancient facility, untouched, completed its activation sequence. Across Earth, the crystalline structures pulsed in perfect harmony. Energy flowed along ley lines that had been mistaken for natural formations for centuries. The planet itself seemed to resonate at a fundamental level. From the surface, observers watched in awe as a shimmering field expanded outward from each site, growing until they merged into a single planetary envelope. The quantum shield, drawing power from Earth's own magnetic field, enclosed the entire planet in a protective barrier. The effect on the Hegemony fleet was immediate. Ships caught within the shield's expansion found their systems failing as quantum resonance disrupted their gravitational technology. Those outside discovered their weapons could no longer penetrate Earth's atmosphere. Archon Zarius appeared one final time on global communications. "This defiance is unprecedented," the alien leader stated, genuine astonishment evident in its modulated voice. "No harvested world has ever." The transmission faltered. The Hegemony will remember this resistance. The massive ships began to withdraw, moving back beyond lunar orbit. Earth had not destroyed them. The ancient shield was defensive, not offensive, but had made the cost of conquest too high. As the last Hegemony vessel disappeared from Earth's tracking systems, celebrations erupted worldwide. But in command centers and research facilities, leaders and scientists understood the truth. This wasn't an end, but a beginning. "They'll be back," Commander Chen said quietly. "Maybe not tomorrow or next year, but eventually. And next time, they'll be prepared for our defenses." Dr. Nakamura nodded. "Then we'll need to be ready. The ancient technology, combined with what we've learned from their ships, we can advance centuries within decades. Not just defense," Maya added. "We need to look outward. There must be other worlds that have faced the Hegemony, other species who might become allies." President Okafor surveyed the faces around her. Scientists, soldiers, and leaders united by Earth's darkest hour. "Then that's our path forward. Today we defended our world. Tomorrow, we take our place among the stars." As the shield shimmered overhead, humanity began planning not just for survival, but for their emergence onto a galactic stage. The Hegemony had awakened something unexpected in their attempted conquest, a species that refused to be harvested, that fought back against overwhelming odds, and that would now carry that same determination beyond their world. Earth was no longer just a blue planet circling an unremarkable star. It was the world that defied the Hegemony, and the galaxy would never be the same.